Hey everyone, and welcome to my craft room. My name's Julianne Richards and I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator in southern Tasmania. This little video is the first of my tutorial videos for my Ranunculus Romance class in January 2022, my class by mail. Thank you for purchasing the class if you're watching this as part of the class. If you're watching it later on YouTube and you'd like to do one of my classes and you live in Australia, please reach out. I do a product class like this one every month featuring a new wonderful Stampin' Up product. Speaking of the product, this month's is the Ranunculus Romance, as I've mentioned already. The stamp set is just so nice, so versatile, I think, and it comes with the dies as well, which are always handy to save that horrible, dreaded fussy cutting. If you bought the bundle from me, you should have received that already directly from Stampin' Up. If you've just purchased the stamp set, that will be coming with you with the card kits. So you hopefully have got those fairly soon as well. I'll just go through with you as we get to what the difference between the two options are. If you've bought just the stamp set, you'll find that your kits look slightly different to the people who have bought the whole bundle, and I'll explain that as we go. Anyway, we'll get started. I do 3 separate videos when I make these card kits, mostly to make it easier for you guys so that you don't have to scroll backwards and forwards as you're trying to find where you were. If you have to leave off at any stage, you can sort of approach it as 3 different tutorials for 3 different cards. Do them end on end if you want, but come back to them if you want later on, rather than, as I say, scrolling through a huge long video. We'll start with this one. I'm calling this card number 1. It's probably my favourite of the 3. Well, I don't know, it's hard. They're all fairly lovely, I think. Anyway, this one uses the lovely main ranuncular image here, and it actually uses 4 of those die cut to create this little sort of bouquet on the front. The colours are obviously black. This is our flirty flamingo, and that's the same as the colour I've used to colour these little blooms here. The leaves are light old olive, so I've used my blends to do that, and I'll show you that again as well in a moment. If you have colours similar with markers or pencils, look, go for it. Just try and match them as well as you can to the flirty flamingo, but it's as long as you stick to that sort of almost reddy pink, you should be okay. Use the sentiment straight from the Ranunculus Romance as well, and we've got some of the beautiful iridescent rhinestones as well, which are new in the current mini catalogue. Okay, so let's get started. We'll pop this one together, and first of all I'll explain to you about the stamping on the blank die cuts, if that's indeed what you have in your kit. If you bought the bundle from me, you should have spare white cardstock to stamp and die cut your ranunculus. If you've just bought the stamp set, you will find in your kit 4 of these little blank die cuts. So I've included those so you can stamp on them with your stamp set. But you might find it easier, if you don't mind fussy cutting, just grabbing some spare white cardstock and starting from scratch with those. I'll show you how you have to stamp on these blanks now, which might convince you to use spare white cardstock. So here is our stamp, all blocked up and ready to go, and here is our blank. So if you've got the blanks, you just need to ink up your stamp, and I find it easier, rather than, I'll get this inked up first, I find it easier to bring the stamp, I've got ink on my fingers already. Anyway, it won't matter. I find it easier to bring the die cut in over the stamp that way, rather than trying to sort of work out where to put it coming in that way. So I'll show you what I mean. You grab your die cut, you've inked up your stamp. You can position starting from one end, you can position the die cut, the blank, over the relevant parts of the stamp, sort of position it. I sort of start at one end and then work my way up so that it's all in the right places. Just sort of gently firm that down with your finger to transfer the ink, and there you get your stamped blank. Okay, so the other alternative would be to have your stamped blank there and come in over the top, but actually I find it easier to go in the way I've just showed you. So as I say, you've got 4. If you didn't buy the bundle, you just bought the stamp set, you'll have 4 of those already cut, and you'll have to do the 4 of those one at a time to get your little images on there. Okay, so once you've got your images, and this goes to everyone who has who bought the bundle as well, you've got to cut yourself 4 of your little ranunculus and colour them with blends or markers or whatever you've decided. I'm going to use my blends, and I'm just going to do the last one. So I googled some ranunculus on the images on Google, and I found a fair few of them have the deeper colour, sort of different to normal flowers. They have the deeper colour on the outside, and they get paler on the inside, which is quite different. Usually the new growth of a flower on the inside is darker. Well, I'm not a big flower person, but that's what I've seen. So what I thought with our little ranunculus here, I'm going to use my dark Flirty Flamingo and pop around the edge of our main bloom there. And then I'll bring in my light Flirty Flamingo and just blend. So it's actually lighter in the middle, a little bit on the top there, because that's where the middle would be once that one opens up. And then, so you've got, I'll show you these other ones. You've got a slightly lighter shade of the Flirty Flamingo on the inside. So that's what I've done with all 4 of mine. You can choose whether that's what you want to do, or I go more, what's the word, more uniform with your colour. It's entirely up to you. And then I've got my old olive, and I'm going to colour those leaves. Now the inked image of these flowers is quite strong. It's quite sort of almost sort of antique-y, old-fashioned the way it looks. So I'm finding that just a little hint of colour is probably very effective. Like they used to colour the old photos. Back in the day, you see those black and white photos that they've added a touch of colour to. I think that suits these as well, which we'll probably see in one of the later cards that we do. So here I've got 4 of our little ranunculus all ready to go for the front of our card. So we might pop those aside for the moment. So I'll bring in our card base and I'll show you what you've got. You've got a basic black card base, normal size, 8 1/4 by 5 3/4, scored in the middle. You've got a slightly smaller piece of Flirty Flamingo, and even though I've only just cut this, I can't remember what it is. 3 7/8 by 5 1/2, and then you've got a piece of Whisper Basic White. Yes, Basic White. That's 5 by 3 3/8. Is that 5? Very nearly 4 7/8, but anyway, it's roughly that amount. And this one has I've popped this one through the gingham embossing folder for you. It's a really, really nice embossing folder. It's in the current January to June mini catalogue. So if you like that one and you like the way it looks, pop on and grab that one as well. I will put a little link to my shop with all the products we've used in the comments of these videos. So just pop over there if you'd like to order or just to check out what each of the products is again. Okay, so we've got those. So all I'm going to do is grab the Flirty Flamingo panel. Now you can have a choice here. If you've got Versamark ink, you can use that, or if you've got Flirty Flamingo, which I should have brought over but I didn't. Floaty Flamingo, you can use this as well. We're using tone on tone. It's basically will give you the same result. So we're going to grab out of our stamp set, this really cute sort of, it's almost like a ledger. Somebody's written in a ledger. It's got sort of Scotch pearls. It's like somebody's it's their order book or something, which is really cute. Just has sort of old world sort of look to it. And I might use the Versamark just to show you what I mean as far as the tone on tone goes. But as I said, you get the same effect using the Flirty Flamingo. And what I'm going to do is we're only going to see the left hand sort of ½ inch and the bottom ½ inch. So I'm just going to pop this sort of image along the bottom and the side. Try and keep it straight if you can. I had real trouble doing this the other day. It just seems to be hard to come in over the top of. So as I say, we're just going to get a hint of the pattern in a slightly darker shade of Flirty Flamingo, just like that. Okay, so then what happens is our embossed panel sits to the right and top of that, and all you see is that pattern around the two edges, the edge and the bottom there. Okay, so we might as well start layering this one up now. It's pretty straightforward from here. Basically just some glue or snail or whatever your adhesive of choice is, and you're lining it up with the side, the right hand side and the top of your card base, just like that. So line it up with the top and the right hand side. So you're leaving a little black border on those two sides there. Then we're going to do the same with our embossed panel. And again, we're going to line it up on the right hand side and the top. If you go over a wee bit, you can always trim that down so that you get a perfect match. But if you use our lovely glue, you can move it. Got a bit of wriggle room, a bit of wriggle time where you can move it around a bit and get it in the right space. Okay, so there is our card base. Now we're going to bring in our little beautiful flowers here, and as I say, we're going to try and make a bouquet out of them. So just sort of layer them up so that they start from a sort of a common point down here, sort of like they're gathered together in a bouquet, and then the last one's going to sit on top. And you're going to cut those sort of, you might think it was quite untidy ends. We can cover that with the die cut of this last one so that they look like they end in a sort of a neat little single branch there. So that's the sort of look that we're going for with our flowers. So I've just glued the first three, so we might pop those in now. Just some glue on their back. So the top one should be, the top of the top flower should maybe be about an inch, yeah, probably an inch from the top of the card, and sort of slightly facing the left-hand side, slightly, not huge, just a little bit. And we can sort of angle the next one in and sort of angle that towards the right and sort of bring it down a wee bit so it's slightly lower, shorter, looks shorter, but it's not, it's just lower. Okay. You might have to use a little bit more glue than you'd normally use because of the embossing folder. You have to get some stickiness happening. And then the third one, again, a tiny bit lower and facing off to the left-hand side this time. And then the last one, I'm going to pop on some dimensionals. And as I say, cover over that slightly messy end with this one on our dimensionals. And this one's sort of, again, slightly over to the right, bending slightly over to the, it's leaning slightly over to the right. I might just grab my dimensionals. As much as I avoid them, the little ones are probably just right for this. Probably put a big one in there, but little one's just as good. On these leaves, you definitely need a little one. And for the stalk, I'm going to get a little one, and I'm going to cut it in half just to make it even more fiddly than it was before. And if it overlaps the edges a wee bit, you can just trim it with your scissors, but that looks okay. Maybe a bit there. There we are. Let's take all our backs off. And again, bring it in, back in, cover over the slightly untidy ends, lean it over to the right-hand side and pop it there. So it looks like you've got a beautiful bouquet of ranunculus there, just ready for your mum or your sister or your friend, anyone really. Okay, so that's the main part of our card. You do in your little pack have probably the best bits. You have a little sentiment box, and this is from and she has to remind herself, the artistic, what is it from, Julianne? The Floral Gallery dies. It goes with the artistically inked bundle, but I just love that little postage stamp end on it, and it's sort of perfect for the dies for the sentiments in this pack, or particularly the one we're going to use, which I've lost. Here it is. So we're going to use the Just Because, which fits pretty perfectly on that little sentiment box. Pop that on there. Because it's just because, it doesn't really have to have a reason, does it? It's just because. Okay, so you've also got a tiny piece of, an extra piece of Floaty Flamingo cardstock. Don't remember being quite whether that's the right piece or not. But anyway, what we're going to do is back our little sentiment box just with a little bit of colour from that. I've left that quite wide, so I'm going to have to trim that down. I just grab my guillotine. Just trim that down a bit. I don't remember whether I've left them all that wide. I'm not quite sure. You might just trim it down with some scissors or something if I've left yours a little bit wider than it should be. Anyway, so that's what we're going to do. We're just going to back that with a little bit of colour of the Floaty Flamingo. So what I'm going to do is pop that on, glue that to our card first. Just some glue on the back. And sort of position it to the right-hand side, sort of up. You cover over a little bit of your ranunculus, but it's not too much of a problem. Okay. And then we'll bring in some more tiny weeny fiddly dimensionals. I love them really. And we'll pop that over the top. Here we are. So you got a little bit of height there. Okay, we're nearly done. We've only got our bling to do, and the bling is the thing. So you've got some of those lovely iridescent rhinestones, and just pop those. You should have 5. Just pop those around in whatever configuration you like. Giving myself all big ones here, which is probably not ideal, but probably what I had left at the end of a row once I'd given out all my kits. But anyway, they do definitely make an effect. Here we are. Cool. Okay, so we've got, you should also have a panel for the inside. Did I give myself a panel for the inside? I'm not sure I did. Oh no, there it is. There's a panel for the inside of your card. You can use one of the other ranuncular images or another sentiment or whatever you like on the inside. I'll let your imagination run wild with that one. And your little card is done. Okay, so that's card number 1 of our class for January 2022. Can't believe I'm saying 2022. Anyway, so there's number 1. So hopefully you like that one. I think that's absolutely the sweetest. I love the ranuncular dies. They're definitely a feature this year. Okay, so there's number 1. Did I say number 2? I can't remember. Anyway, card number 1. So I'll have a bit of a tidy up and I'll come back with card number 2 and get our way through. Okay, chat soon.